This podcast discusses a non-stop, thrilling adventure fantasy series set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders, which includes potential spoilers for all published material. This episode includes elements regarding war, death, assault, dubious consent, and explicit language, including sexually explicit language. Listeners who may be sensitive to these elements, cross the parapet at your own risk and prepare to enter the Wing Readers. Welcome to the Wing Readers, where we deep dive into the Empyrean series chapter by chapter, theorize and overanalyze. I'm Abby.
I'm John.
And I'm Cassie.
And today we are covering 4th Wing, Chapter 7. Here's your friendly reminder that all published material is fair game, so you'll be spoiled. We are going to send it over to our resident scribe, John, to break down the epigraph.
We have the rare double epigraph, where we have two addendums to the Basgiath War College Code of Conduct, Addendum 5.2 and 5.3, going in this successive order. In the best interest of preserving peace within Navarre, no more than 3 cadets carrying rebellion relics may be assigned to any squad of any quadrant. And then, in addition to last year's changes, marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more will now be considered an act of seditious conspiracy and is hereby a capital offense. One quick thing I want to point out here. Not only do we have this escalation against the marked ones because of the relics that they bear, but we have this, uncertainty over what quantity of marked ones truly constitute a quorum to generate that issue. So the first one here, it's more than 3, meaning that 3 cadets together is acceptable. It's more than 3 that's unacceptable. Mm-hmm. But then we step forward and we find out that marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more. And so it's almost like they're starting to catch on to the fact that they're not seeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I have a question or an issue with this, because we know that Melgren's signet, that they are protected against, is seeing the outcomes of battles. So I understand not having too many in a specific squad, but would he ever even be able to see a conversation or an assembly anyways, even if it is too many marked
because it hasn't
riders.
even been enough years for them to get into battle to have this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but Melgren mentions later on in the book that he always likes to keep an eye on Xaden, so I get the feeling that first year when Xaden showed up to the Dragon Riders Quadrant, Melgren was trying to keep as close an eye on him as possible.
Mm-hmm. So do you think in the second year he was just like, or even in the first year he was like, Xaden and these other folks are still talking amongst themselves too much?
I think it was either they're talking amongst each other too much, or he was recognizing that there was things that he wasn't seeing. He somehow knew, you can
but
tell
he wouldn't see if it's not a battle anyway. So that's the issue of
this is also true.
Him not being able to see things seems irrelevant for them creating the second addendum.
Yes, but we do know that he sees the outcomes of battles, but doesn't know when they're going to happen. Mm. So it could be that, okay, Xaden actually bonded a dragon, but I'm not seeing any battle that has Xaden in it. And what are the chances of that? Or any of the marked riders.
Yeah, what's the likelihood that I'm never going to see Sigale in a fight ever? Or maybe he has a sense that these big battles that we knew were coming in the later books were coming, but didn't know when they were going to hit. Okay. And
So I can see that, at least for Addendum 5.2, that could make sense in terms of his signet. But then the second addendum, where it says assembling in groups of 3 or more, obviously that has nothing to do with a battle or a battle outcome. So that probably has to be more of a just straight surveillance thing, where they worry about the information that the children know, because we learn in this chapter that they do know about the venin.
Mm-hmm.
They're worried about them planning another rebellion or another
Uprising.
Yeah, I guess rebellion.
Revolution.
Revolution, thank you. And not wanting them to be spreading that
That makes sense.
information.
I could see that. But the thing that drives me, that really gets me, is we know the critical number of relics is 3. Any group with 3 or more relics, Melgren cannot see.
Well, yes, okay.
I see it. I could see it go in both directions. I could see them watching the cadets and saying, we need to split you all up more.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could see it being, I'm still not seeing anything, we didn't get the number right, or both. Or omitted variable bias.
Yeah. This is why I think the first one is about the signet and the second one is just about surveillance, because the second addendum says, in addition to last year's changes, marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more will not be considered blah blah blah. So I'm assuming that they're not changing the first one being no more than 3 cadets in a squad of any quadrant. So there can still be 3 cadets with rebellion relics.
You know
But
what it
outside
was?
of that, any assembling.
Like if those 3 from the same squad tried to go hang out together outside of like a class,
that wouldn't be okay.
And that's what it was. So I bet you money that there were more than just Xaden and Garrick in the first year. Because like there are only so many marked ones that graduate in that first
They
cohort.
do mention that there are a few third years in this chapter, in this meeting.
In marked 1 chapters, yeah. And so I would bet that they were openly getting together into this, we're going to get through this together. And the leadership didn't like it because, remember, they were sent to the quadrant to die.
Yeah.
Not to be buddy-buddy and survive.
Yeah. And so you're right. I could see that as well. And maybe what we're about to witness in this chapter is that inspiration for why the second addendum was put forward.
I think we came to a good agreement there. All right, Cassie, are there any pronunciations in this chapter that we should be aware of?
I did not catch any, and I did not see any on my resource list that are in between this and the next ones.
Yeah, I didn't see any either.
Everybody agrees it's faunally berries?
I think she made that word up. It doesn't.
I know. I just want to make sure that pronunciation is going to be...
Oh, right.
I say faunally,
yeah.
Yeah. What about this river, the
Jacobos? Well,
Jacobos?
Yeah.
I do actually have some comments about the Jacobos that don't have anything to do with pronunciation. So we can get to those.
Okay, so we'll get to it when we get to it. We'll get to it in
but
30
fun
seconds.
fact,
Okay.
that is the Greek word for Jacob.
Oh. Interesting. Okay. All right, well, if we don't have anything else, I will go ahead and get us started with Chapter 7. It is nighttime, and Violet is struggling beside the river that runs beneath the citadel. Visibility is great due to the full moon, and she is sweating underneath a black cloak. She notes that the river's currents are fast and deadly in the Jacobos River. And we learn that a first year fell into it yesterday and died. So far, her squad hasn't lost anyone, but they are the only squad to have remained intact. Violet is on a poison mission.
Can I insert my real quick thing about the river?
Oh, yes, sorry. I thought that was your
my
thing. I'm
thing about
sorry.
the river is that this sent me down a side rabbit hole of actually looking at the map for once.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
And
proud of you.
in so doing, well, originally I was trying to figure out if the Jacobos naming meant anything, and I couldn't really find anything specific, like a myth or something that would, like, why did she choose this name? I don't know. Why did she choose Greek for this one instead of Gaelic like everything else? I don't know. But I looked at the map, and a lot of the rivers, this is a classic fantasy map-making mistake, they're drawn backwards. So rivers don't split. They start as several rivers in the mountains that merge, and then they enter the sea as one river. And every single one of her rivers enters the sea from multiple points. Some of them you could get away by calling them deltas that are just drawn interestingly, but several of them definitely split off before they reach the water, and that drives me a little bit nuts.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of interesting how they also look like cracks?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's just not how rivers work.
I know.
So, carry on. That's all I had to say.
Technically, I would possibly make them tidal estuaries, though.
That's why I said there are a couple that you could get away by calling deltas, because river deltas do expand out like a fan like that, but most of these, there's a distinct separation of the river going across around something, and that's just extremely uncommon.
Okay.
You can't have 2 points that are the lowest. Like, that's not...
Yeah. Thank you, Cassie.
Also, this was my favorite chapter on first read.
Was it really?
Yes.
I do love this chapter. It's a very good chapter.
It is.
And there is so much rereading it. There are so many good morsels of, now that we know this,
Yes.
this makes so much more sense. We'll get to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Violet is on a poison mission. She is searching for a vine of fonnelly berries, which are tart and barely edible when ripe, but will create some type of poison that we don't know yet at this point when picked early and dried. Violet has been on this poison mission for 9 days. This is our first time jump. So everything before this has happened within 2 days, conscription day and her first day. So this is our first little time jump. And we learn that the poison book was the one that Mira let her keep. The one that's for killing people. Which she doesn't ever kill anybody with poison, so...
But she could.
But she could. She
Yet.
She very carefully doesn't.
And she almost did.
She almost does with... Are you talking about Jack?
Nope.
No.
That would almost be... That could also be an almost, but no,
Oh, are you talking about in Onyx Storm?
Yes. That
Okay.
wasn't a bluff. They would
at
have
the
died.
negotiation?
And she
Oh, that's
could have
true.
let them. She might
Yep, that
have.
is true. That's true. Okay, good point. So she has built an arsenal of poisons due to the challenges starting next week and her needing every possible advantage. This is a classic case of her using her brain to outsmart her opponents instead of relying on brute force. She knows where this vine is due to living here for the past 5 years, which I found interesting just because 5 years ago is also when the rebellion ended. So Mama Sorengale was stationed here post rebellion ending, which I just found interesting timeline wise.
But remember, she's the one that vanquished the Great Betrayer. She was the one that hunted down Fen Ryerson and hunted down the Cordula sister and mother, and like by many regards, she won the war. And so it kind of makes sense that she had to be promoted because of her role in all of that.
Sure. And maybe also the perk of getting kind of a cushier job where there isn't as much danger to her, except for when she is called to the front lines.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it also, like, it put her husband in the archives, so it was kind of satisfying him too, and I can see a lot of arguments politically for why this happened.
Yes. I just like that little timeline lining up there.
Oh, my note was that we need to bring back cloaks. I really appreciate the cloak representation in this moment. Not great for climbing trees, but...
Cassie wore a cloak at her wedding. Cassie's cloak was one of my favorite parts about her wedding, and I had the honor of carrying it behind her while she walked down the aisle. So the tree that the vine grows on has easily climbable lower branches, and the grass is, quote, oddly trampled underneath, which we will very shortly learn why the grass is trampled. Violet takes her arm out of her sling. She still has some pain in the shoulder, but it fades quickly into a dull ache, or just an ache, whatever, a dull ache. Maybe I'm projecting a little bit of what my joints feel like. As she starts climbing, she hopes that tomorrow Nolan will let her out of the sling for good. She mentions that Rhiannon has been kicking her ass on the mat nearly every evening. The cloak is making things tricky and catching on the branches, but she knows this tree well, as one of its branches was where she would spend hours reading. And I remember as a teenager, I had a climbable tree in my front yard, and I always tried to go up there and read, and I would get uncomfortable within like 3 minutes, and I'd be like, okay.
It sounds a little like hard, and like you have to like balance and read your book, and your butt probably goes numb.
Yeah.
Right. It's going back to the long tangent we had last episode, but our society does not allow for climbable trees and the plentiful quantity of climbable trees that eventually you get that one branch that
Mm-hmm.
will just perfectly fit your ass.
Yep. Yep. My tree was relatively narrow branched. So for me, it was more.
Oh, we had climbable trees when I was a kid because there was like this empty lot behind all our houses.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the climbable trees were like pine trees. So they've got like this radius of branches
Mm.
sticking out all the way around, all the way up. So like a small little human can climb up them, but not really an adult.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
also there's sap everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
You're not sitting in those trees to read.
So Violet is climbing. Her foot slips, but she recovers. She notes it would be easier during the day, but she cannot get caught. Even though, again, there's that adage that there's no cheating in the writer's quadrant. There's no cheating when it comes to surviving, but obviously there are some things that are
Curfew.
frowned upon. She climbs higher and finds the berries. She uncorks a vial with her teeth, fills it, and corks it back up. She collected mushrooms earlier in the night and says that with all of the collected items, she should be able to make it through challenges for a month. She is then on her way down. She is nearing the last few branches when she hears a noise and sees two people, also wearing black cloaks, stop under her tree. Their hoods come off, and it is Imogen and Xaden. Violet is about 15 feet above them and notes that there is nothing and no one around to stop Xaden from killing her, so stakes are pretty high. She can't hear them over the river and realizes in relief that they can't hear her either. So she is safe as long as they don't look up because she is right in the moonlight. So, at this point, Xaden, I don't believe, knows that she's there. It's not until she creeps into the shadows that he's like, I
Mm.
see you. I see you, Vi. So she starts to move very carefully into a spot covered in shadows. At this point, I do believe Xaden knows that she's there. And immediately, this girl has no chill. She immediately starts wondering if they're lovers. She is so she's so jealous. And she doesn't even think that she is, but she's absolutely so jealous. She says, "It's absolutely none of my business, and yet I can't help but wonder if she's the kind of woman he goes for, one whose beauty is only outmatched by her brutality. They fucking deserve each other." So we learned from two things from this. One, Violet is a nosy bitch, and honestly, same. Um, and we also learned that Imogen is beautiful. Like, if her beauty is only outmatched by her brutality, and she almost ripped Violet's arms off, then this girl is a smoke show. That's so funny. I wasn't even reading my notes. I was just saying what my heart wanted, and I wrote down that she's also a smoke show. So obviously,
You're nothing if not consistent.
exactly, exactly. More cloaked figures arrive. And I wrote, "This is like an eyes wide shut rendezvous." And
Oh my god.
this would be a completely different book if that's where it went.
I'm sorry. Oh my god.
They're all wearing cloaks.
I know it's so good, and I just
uh,
oh.
Violet realizes when cloaks start coming off that they all have rebellion relics. She notes that there are nearly 24 of them, mostly first year, but a few seconds and a few thirds. Violet references the epigraph and notes that they are currently committing a capital offense. She hypothesizes that they could be gathering either due to homesickness or due to plotting the downfall of Basgiath and, quote, finish what their parents started.
Specifically to burn this guy to the ground,
Yes.
as they do later. But I also wanted to. They're kind of doing both. Like, they do have these practical reasons to, like, be discussing, like, how do we get through this all together, but, like,
So that
we
they
also
can.
know that they're literally being indoctrinated into, like, the rebellion right now, and,
I
well, indoctrinated is not the right
disagree.
word. Xaden is probably trying to figure out who he can trust. Some of those third years probably are already a part of everything. Like, there's already this stuff set in motion, like the arms dealing and stuff, which does culminate in burning this guy to the ground.
Yes. I will get to it because there is a quote that I will read. We'll get to it, but I'm completely convinced that everybody gathered here knows about the Venin. It's just, I guess, more of a question of who is going to be actually acting on this information.
Hmm.
So Violet realizes that her complacency and fear could get people killed if they truly are scheming, so she needs to get closer to hear what they're saying, and she plans to report back to Dane. At least at this point.
If necessary.
Yes. She climbs down further, staying in the shadows that wrap around her. That is a quote that I underlined.
The shadows are moving now.
Yep, again, Xaden 100% already knows that she's there. And he will not blow up her spot because he needs to protect her and knows that the other rebellion kids will want at her. That is my note there.
So, quick question. Do you think he knows that she's there because she moved into the shadows and he controls the shadows? Or do you think it's because when she first moves into the shadow, it's her first intention of eavesdropping on them? And I think Xaden had his hackles up, but he wasn't actively looking for people. He was just looking for the intention to eavesdrop.
That's a good question.
He talks about how, I don't remember exactly what the quote is, but I'm pretty sure at the end or somewhere in the middle, he does say, like, you went into the shadows and the shadows are my domain. Like, I know what's in the shadows.
I command the shadows.
I would challenge that when we get to that, because I don't think he actually says that. I think that she says what, and you command the shadows, she puts out the idea that his shadows detected it, and
she's snarky about her perfume. He says that he commands the shadows.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he so much says it was shadows that did it. I think he obfuscates. I very much think it was his intrinsic
He does
power.
obfuscate. I would need to look back at Onyx Storm when he's talking about his intrinsic powers, because I think that it does require some sort of delving into somebody. Like, he does have to concentrate on it to do it. So I don't know if it's something where he needs eye contact or something, but
yeah, I'm more convinced by the shadow part than the passive intention part.
But there is definitely intrinsic stuff in this chapter, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm looking again.
And maybe as soon as he knows she's there, he switches that on. It could be a very rapid succession thing.
And he's intentionally trying not to use it. I could see that. No, I can't, because they're scheming. He needs this because of his scheming. I don't know. I'm not
saying he's not trying to use it. I'm just saying that he has to be aware there's a person to use it on before he can use it. And as soon as he notices that she's in the shadows, he could then read her intention to eavesdrop.
Fair.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is better than an intention to, stab them in the back, for example.
Yeah.
So Violet moves with sloth-like speed, and I just halted here and realized, so sloths exist in this world. Where do they exist?
I had the same thought earlier about deer, because she thinks that she hears a deer move. And
so
then
deer makes more sense to me, because sloths could only know about sloths, or I guess they could be in books, and so she just knows about them, but they would only exist, at least on the mainland, in zoos, because if they are like the sloths of our world, the climate that they would need would be more like the Isles, and they don't go to the Isles. So this is totally nitpicky, but I'm like, sloths?
See, and
yeah, I just thought it was funny, because deer, even deer being plausible, we get so few animal references in these series to anything that's not a dragon. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she references deer, sloths, cats, and wolves in this chapter within 3 pages is really interesting.
I would also point out that if we're talking about zoos, I don't think Navarre has much by way of tourism.
No, I don't think they have zoos either. I'm just but why would they know about sloths if they wouldn't even live in this climate?
I would bet money, though, that Takaris has a menagerie. I would bet that the aristocracy has menageries. And so she has seen a sloth before, because she's been in the court of Chaldeer for so many years that the king has to
now I feel like we're doing Rebecca's world building for her, because this never comes up in all of the cool things that she sees when she goes to visit.
This is fair, but we also have not gotten a lot of exposition from Violet on any of her time spent in the court other than she didn't like it.
Yeah.
And she dated a prince.
Yeah.
But like, if she saw a sloth for the first time, come on, that would have been notable, right?
Unless it was with her ex-boyfriend Prince.
And she just wants to block it out.
Yeah. And so I have a feeling that we're going to find out a lot more about Violet's past in that regard, and we're going to find out that there's a menagerie in the court, and it was the reason we don't hear about it is cuz she doesn't like the prick that took her.
I could totally see there being a menagerie. I don't know if we'll get anything about it, but I can buy that explanation.
It's the only one that makes sense given everything.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so then we get a description of Garrick. He's not named quite yet, but we obviously know that it is him. He is described as tall, dark-haired, with pale skin. So this is confirmed a white person. As we were
Yep.
talking about in last chapter, this is not tan. He's pale. He has super broad shoulders and is the loudest of the group. Garrick says that they have already lost 2 rebellion first years, Sutherland and Luperco. I don't think these names ever come back unless we learn about their parents way later on in some random tangential. I don't think so though.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, it's more Helens.
More Helens.
Violet says if any of them looked closely enough, they would be able to see her, except Xaden, because his back is turned, which is funny because, again, I believe he's the only one who actually knows she's there.
Yes.
Yep.
Imogen says that they need to stick together if they want to survive until graduation. Violet notes that she's close enough to kick her in the head, but values her life more than revenge. Just thought that was a funny little aside there. A first-year girl asks what will happen if they're caught. Xaden replies that they haven't been caught in the past 2 years, and if they keep it to themselves, they will be fine. Xaden says if they tell anybody, he will know, and I wrote, due to his intention reading. I'm having a really hard time reading my notes today, you guys. I'm sorry. But he will know, and we know that he will know due to his intention reading. And I thought that this whole chapter is a really great testament to Rebecca's planning and vision for the entire series because we don't learn anything about Xaden's intrinsic second signet until book 3, like towards the end of book 3. And there are so many references in this chapter alone that points me to being convinced that she is writing him with this second signet already.
What do you mean end of book 3? It was Iron Flame that we found out about it.
Oh my god, you're
about
right.
to say, like,
sorry.
They found something out of
Sorry.
book 3, but I thought that was book 2.
Oh,
It's okay.
good lord. Sorry, guys. Yeah. It's been a week. Okay, yes. Sorry. End of book 2.
Yes.
I'll keep it in because if you guys get to have your mistakes in, my mistakes get to stay in too. Okay. So, still though, it's towards the end of book 2, but she is already writing with the knowledge that he is intrinsic, can read these intentions, and I will just put in my own little aside here. Unlike a certain author of a very famous 7-book magical school series who insists that she had a plan the entire time, but there's no way that she could have had a plan the entire time because there are way too many internal inconsistencies in her books. So, we don't need to name her, but I am fully convinced that Rebecca, at least in this sense, is completely on the ball. Xaden says that the 2 who died did so because of their own negligence. There are 41 of them left, I presume, so I'm assuming there were 43 in the quadrant until these 2 died. And while they don't want any more to die, they will die if they cannot help themselves. And I have a quote here, page 80. The odds are always stacked against us, and trust me, every other Navarian in the quadrant will look for reasons to call you a traitor or force you to fail. So we got some internal biases here, which I love to point out, but they are up against a lot. Everybody is overanalyzing everything they do, every step they make, and will find any reason to call them out.
Every step they take, they'll be watching.
Violet begrudgingly finds this admirable against her will and admits it would be nice to have something similar, like an older mentor figure. And I wrote, little does she know, because Xaden will be that for her. 4 rebellion first years are getting their asses handed to them on the mat. Violet notes that Liam is not one of those
Ugh.
4, and I immediately just tears.
Because she already knows who he is.
Yes, of course, because he's the best in his year. He stands out. And he also stands out because he's like a head taller than everybody else. So, how are we saying his last name? I've been pronouncing it Mary.
I've been saying Myri.
And see, I hear it's like Maori is what the audiobook says, is Liam Mari. Mari. Mairi. Mari.
Reminder that we are a pronunciation inclusive podcast, so all those pronunciations will probably be
Excessively
said,
abused.
Begrudgingly acceptable.
They're all valid.
Oh, okay, real quick, I just want to read you in my Reddit Gaelic thread that I'm using. I just love this little aside that they put at the end of their like intro paragraph. Apparently, the audiobook narrator was given a pronunciation guide, but it wasn't a Gaelic one.
Okay.
Hence all of John's weird examples that he's going to be giving us.
I listen to the audiobooks.
We're inclusive, Cassie. We're inclusive.
I know.
Oh! That reminds me. We forgot one other thing in Battle Brief. How many times I've listened to the books. So, here's a little spoiler hint for the next episode. In Battle Brief next episode, John got stats on how many times he's listened to the audios books on Audible. Surprise.
I'm so excited.
Or not surprise.
Very excited.
There are over 40 listens to various...
Don't tell us now.
Don't spoil.
That's the little hint. See you next time.
Okay. Stay tuned. So Liam has spiky blonde hair. He is in 4th wing in the 2nd squad of the tail section. So within Violet's wing, but not in her section or squad, obviously. He had a super easy time across the parapet. She notes that he practically ran across, and he easily beat all of his opponents on assessment day. Xaden is exasperated to see that 4 first years need help on the mat. Garrick seems exasperated too, but says that he will teach them. Violet at this point is now recognizing who Garrick is and how she knows him. He is the flame section leader of 4th wing, aka her section leader. I know that sometimes it gets confusing, and there's like a graphic, I think in Iron Flame, of the breakdown of how sections and wings and squads work, but he is the next up on her chain of command after Dane.
Mm-hmm.
So Xaden shakes his head and says Garrick is their best fighter, to which Bodhi disagrees. He is not named quite yet, but this is Bodhi. Bodhi says that Xaden is the best. So Bodhi is described as being handsome with tawny brown skin. So again, there's that tawny word that we had talked about last episode.
We do get brown this time.
We do get brown this time, yes. He has black curls and looks similar to Xaden. Violet remembers that Fen had a sister and reasons that they're probably cousins, which we get in the next page or two, we get a very convenient Bodhi calling Xaden his cousin. He goes, "Oh, cousin, you're being too harsh." And so that's a little forced in there, but it's okay. We'll let it go.
We'll let it slide.
We'll let it slide this time. Imogen counters that he's the dirtiest fighter, and Garrick says that he's fucking ruthless.
Sips tea.
Yeah. Xaden continues that even though Garrick is the best, Imogen has more patience and is nearly as good, so the 4 will be split between the 2, and in that way they will not draw attention because they will be a group of 3 each.
A group of 3 in a school-approved activity.
Yes.
Of sparring.
Yeah.
And not...
Yeah. A first year breaks down, saying he can't do it. He references motherfucking Jack Barlow breaking a neck in front of him, and he wants to go home.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow.
Motherfucking Jack Barlow. Xaden doesn't really have any sympathy here. He's glib and tells him that he won't make it and that he needs to come to terms with it and stop wasting Xaden's time. Violet is shocked and thinks he's a dick. The first year looks stricken, and Bodhi tells Xaden that he is being harsh. Xaden says he cannot save everyone, especially those who aren't willing to try and save themselves. He says that the truth is more valuable than hand holding and false platitudes.
I thought this part was really interesting because I feel like that's not the only definition of a pep talk. Like a pep talk is to like motivate people, and you
Yeah.
can do that
Without like
in
lying
other ways
to them.
than sugarcoating things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can boost morale by like reminding them how important this is, that you're in it together. Like you don't have to like promise them they won't die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I found this motivating in a way of saying like, no, you need to get it together or you will die. It's not like a happy motivation, but it is a motivation.
Right, or better yet still, you need to get yourself together or you're gonna die because I'm not getting you together for you. And I really love that, like, Garrick is obviously, like, he's going through his closest people and even they're like, God damn. Too much, bro.
They're like,
Too much.
Oh, God. Here he goes again.
Only crickets dare break the silence after that.
Yep. Xaden says this is war. It's not romantic or a fable where everyone makes it out alive, and they are at war every second they're even in the quadrant. So get it together or you will not live. He asks for someone to give him a problem he can solve, and a first-year girl brings up trouble with Battle Brief in a very vague way. Imogen is sympathetic, which Violet notes makes her look like a completely different person. And Xaden tells the first year to quote, this is on page 83, learn what they teach you. Keep what you know, but recite whatever they tell you to. And this is the note that convinces me everybody here knows about the Venom. They know the truth about the rebellion. They know what their parents were doing. I could argue that the younger ones, because we know that there is like a 5-year-old, I believe is the youngest rebellion child because she was born like after the
With
executions
relic.
or like right before. Yes. And so I can definitely see the younger kids maybe not being privy to this. But these kids were all teenagers when this was going on.
Would have been asking their parents, why is this happening?
And I think their parents would think it's important enough to rope them in. Like, this is why we're doing this. You're going to be told it's for a different reason.
Yeah, if you're leading a rebellion, you're not just going to, like, leave your kids in the dark about what you're fighting for.
Yeah. And this also signals to me why they wanted these kids dead. So I think that there was probably a question of, do we just kill all of the children? Do we execute them with their parents and try to spin this in a way where this is a good thing? And then that's where this idea of conscripting them into the Riders Quadrant came, where
let them die on their own.
The dragons will take care of it for us, or they'll fall off the parapet, or someone will kill them, and we don't have to worry about it. And yeah, obviously that backfires on them. But
yes.
Because, yeah, I think that they just decided it would be too bad of a PR move that too many people would be like, that doesn't make sense. Why are you killing all of these children?
Yeah. War crimes.
They were trying to. They actually tried to, remember. It was Lilith Sorrengail who insisted that the children should not be punished for the crimes of their parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not by death, anyway.
Yes.
No.
I guess we can get going straight off. I don't know if I'll include this little portion in the recording. I might delete it, but...
Pretend we never paused.
Little peek behind the curtain. We had to take a break because we ran out of time in our little session there, so we are convening several hours later.
Little addendum to the explanation of the break. If we ever do this podcast in person where all three of us are in the same place, I hope you understand. I am going to make the three of us clap before we can do anything.
Okay. Okay. I dig it.
I've also thought about if we ever could meet up sometime and do it.
Oh, we'll have to. Absolutely. I still want to. I don't think it's going to happen this spring like I initially wanted it to, but doing like a little reading getaway, we absolutely need to try to do that. I think fall might be attainable, but that will be dependent also on John and your school schedule. But once Theo's 1, I won't have to worry about feeding him all the time because that's the age where they don't need to rely on it anymore. But
Mm.
he doesn't take a bottle at all, so up until then I would have to be very close by.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be fun. That would just be stressful. So, anyways, we left off with our discussion of the rebellion kids, which is just kind of what I call them. I know that's not really what they are, but whatever.
The marked ones.
The mocked ones, they know about the venom. So, Violet's brow furrows. She's confused by this. She has been putting her faith in the scribes, or the sibes, as we called them last chapter.
Sibes.
Putting faith in the sibes, giving sibes. Oh my god.
That wasn't on purpose?
It has
That was
to
an
stay.
accident.
It has to stay.
It'll stay, it'll
Call
stay.
back.
Okay. She's been putting faith in the scribes, giving them accurate and up-to-date information, and of course she would, because she was going to be a scribe girly, and for the most part, I feel like people do have faith in the scribes. Violet then realizes that they aren't doing anything wrong other than being in a group of more than 3, and she knows that if she were to tell Dane, he would 100% report it regardless. And so this is
Mhm.
where we first kind of start seeing the difference between Violet and Dane, because they both know the rules. They both have an interest in the rules, but Violet is definitely able to see more of the gray area or break the rules when it's justifiable, whereas Dane is more hardline and doesn't see that gray area.
So, moment in that. Remember when I was like, Nolan is scolding Dane because he's constantly bringing a broken Violet to him over the last 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely convinced that Dane was the one that was being drug along, going, Violet, we can't do this, it's against the rules. And she's like, fuck that, I'm climbing this tree because I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, she knows the rules, so she can either A, find the loopholes, or B, find the parts that she morally disagrees with, so she can just do it anyways.
Yes.
Then someone, I don't think it's a guy towards the back, so we don't get a name, but someone asks when they get to kill Violet, and she gets scared.
Skirty skirt.
Xaden turns to Imogen because she says sweetly, "Yeah, Xaden, when do we get to finally have our revenge?"
I want to note here really quick that her eyes are actually described as pale green and not
Mm-hmm.
like the striking green. So, like, just as a quick little note, because, like, normally when they describe the towery eyes, they're describing them as, like, deep emerald green, not pale.
Yes. And we have not discussed this on the podcast yet.
Oh, sorry, did I jump ahead?
Yes, no, you're good. This is as good of a time as any. I think
May
that
as
we like
well.
vaguely mentioned it earlier, but there is a theory that Imogen is actually related to the royal line,
Mm-hmm.
due to the fact that she does have green eyes. Granted, it is a pale green rather than a signature emerald green that Auric is always trying to hide. But there is a theory that between her eye color and the fact that she dyes her hair constantly, that there could be some sort of connection to the throne. And I know that we had a couple different ideas of how that could be possible.
Right, I think the one that we decided was our favorite was the idea that maybe Image's mom had been a consort or member of the court of King Towery, and when she discovered
Mm-hmm.
the truth, had fled with her dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think
Our
she happened to be
favorite?
my favorite. Sorry.
Mine and John's favorite.
I've been on team she's not royal this whole time.
Sure. And I think that's the most plausible, but if we're taking this theory as okay, let's hold this as true, what makes the most sense to me?
Mhm.
I think that it would be that her mom would be a consort, would have either been pregnant with Imogen. That makes the most sense to me that nobody knew that she was even pregnant with Imogen when she left, because I feel like if King Tari knew that he had a consort that was pregnant or who had a daughter, then this wouldn't be plausible at all. So my theory is that Imogen's mom would have learned the truth, would have fled, and then joined the rebellion. Do we have the reel, the Instagram reel, so we can give credit?
It's
The
buried
person.
somewhere in hundreds of.
Okay.
Not
Let me.
hundreds.
While we're on
Dozens.
the topic of all of this, and while you guys are looking for that, out of curiosity, I have a just dawned on me. I wonder if who's our friend in the Scribes Quadrant?
Yesenia?
Jacinia.
Justinia, thank you.
Are you saying it with a Y?
I am. That might be a holdover from saying Yasna in the Stormlight stuff.
What do the audiobooks say?
Justinia.
Okay.
And so Justinia, like, when they're getting ready to break into the vault, first she looks at Imogen, then she looks at Auric, if memory serves, and that's when she's like, holy shit, and recognition dawns. Part of me wonders if part of that recognition wasn't, but wait, you look a lot like him.
Well, the recognition is that he looks like the other royal people. She hasn't had that
I know.
realization yet. So it's
I
weird
know.
for her to like have any recognition about Imogen first.
Oh, she knows he's royal. She knows Aric's royal at that point. Because
Oh, so you're saying that she thinks Imogen looks like Auric.
she might have noticed that Imogen looks a bit like Auric right before she realized who he was.
Once we get to that point, we will analyze the hell out of it. In the meantime, I did find the creator of the reels. It is Moon Cycle Stories, spelled the way that you would expect on Instagram. So thank you, Moon Cycle Stories.
Mm-hmm.
I did see some people in the comments on that one being like, but Rebecca said that she just dyes her hair for its own sake.
Yeah.
And I like, well, so my thought is like, okay, I like that idea, but also we don't trust anything Rebecca tells us.
No, we don't.
Yeah. I feel like you got to take everything she says with a grain of salt. There are sometimes in interviews where I've seen people will ask like off the wall questions and she's like, what? So in that case, I'm like, okay, that I can see that is a genuine reaction. Like, wait, are people
Oh.
the one I remember seeing was is Violet
Violet
adopted?
is adopted.
Yeah, and she was like, do
And
people
yeah.
think that? So I can see in that case where it's like totally like what? That she would be truthful in that, but yeah, I take everything that she says in interviews with a grain of salt because she's not going to show all of her cards
Right. And
before
she
the
was
series is
saying,
over.
like, she was like, when people were hypothesizing about the second signet stuff and, oh, who's dragon, Liam? No, who's dragon?
You have to finish a sentence for us to be able to answer
give
it.
us some more
I know.
information.
Whose dragon is named Day?
Oh, that's Liam's dragon.
That is
that
Liam's dragon.
Liam?
Yeah, Day is the one that dies at the end of this book.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong.
Why?
Oh, well, one of the dragons didn't match the power of. Yeah, it is Day. Didn't match the power of the.
What's Day stand for?
Can't tell you yet. We're not there. What am I going to tell you when we get to that chapter?
Yeah, Day. I'm just confirming Day is Liam's dragon.
Yes. So anyway, the translation of that word didn't match his power, and so people were like, "Oh, is this a mistake? Is this a second signet? Is this a blah blah blah?" And she was like, "Oh, that's just an editing mistake." Except for it's not. It actually was the second signet thing.
It was ice.
Probably. I don't know the translation, but
To be confirmed.
okay.
As I'm like peeking ahead.
Getting back to it, after the Imogen perhaps may be connected to the royal line tangent, Xaden turns towards Imogen. He narrows his eyes and says, I told you already, the youngest Sorengale is mine, and I'll handle her when the time is right. And I just love reading this with hindsight.
And how exactly
because
he
she
becomes
truly
hers.
is his.
Yeah.
And from this, he probably had a stern talking to with her after assessment day. And I'm wondering if he has told her or anyone about the favor that Mama Sorengale has cashed in. I think if he has told anyone, it would most likely be Bodhi and Garrick. I don't know if he
And
would have.
Liam. Liam was a brother to him by this point. Liam and he
That's
had been living
true.
together for multiple years, and he has a vested interest in seeing this boy survive.
That's true.
I think Liam knows.
But does that mean that he's in the circle of all secrets? Like, you don't tell your little brother everything.
No, maybe you're right, but
Anyone?
I think Liam obviously has to know by a later stage, and the fact that Liam is if Liam was the one that spoke up and wanted to kill her, you think that Violet would have commented that it was Liam, right?
Oh, it's absolutely not Liam saying that.
It's just some random guy.
Some random guy in the back, but I don't necessarily think that Xaden would have to tell anyone about the favor, because once she bonds with Tarn and Scale are mated, he has a really good reason for wanting to keep her alive, and then obviously they fall in love, and that's even more of a reason. So I don't know if he necessarily needs to tell anyone, but if he were to tell anyone that there is this favor that he is honor bound essentially to follow through, I don't know if Imogen would be included.
It seems like if she was, it'd be weird that she just went straight after and trying to kill her on first day.
Yeah, maybe after that instance he would have told her.
And Xaden doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would like look at other people and be like, "Oh, and here's what I did for you." Like he doesn't. I think he might hide it from them because he doesn't want them to feel the guilt.
He doesn't want, that, and also, since when does he tell anyone anything important ever?
He keeps a lot of cards to his chest.
It's like on an extremely need-to-know basis, except for even then, you've got to figure it out for yourself first.
That is a super valid point. Like nail on the fucking head valid point.
He's doing his so much his best right now.
So no one knows.
To to enact this plan without telling anyone, and also trying to not let them mess it up.
I think I agree with that. And I just want to say, as a little aside, I ask a lot of questions, not necessarily because I believe that that's the case. I just want to hear other perspectives and see if it is a possibility worth pursuing. So just so you guys know, I'm not out here like trying to convince you guys of wild theories. I'm just wondering if anything is a possibility.
Everyone loves that little inspirational thought that's like, but wait.
But what if?
Yes.
But what if? So Violet takes umbrage with his word choice. She indignantly thinks that she is not some inconvenience to be handled, and she feels her admiration for him disappear. Bodhi then goads Imogen, saying Dane has her on dishes duty for a month for using her powers on the mat. And again, we have that question of the fact that they're saying your powers and not just magic. Does lend to the idea that she was mind wiping Violet. We had talked about that back in chapter 5 when they were on the map, and how it seemed that she was moving really quickly, and there was a specific shout out of "you're not allowed to use your power."
And then we had our whole debate about whether or not she got fast with power.
Yeah, because that's, if she did, then it's a thing that everyone gets. Otherwise, they're probably referring to her signet, and we're just assuming that she got some touches in there or something.
Question.
Periodically, and
we obviously know that runes can affect humans by applying relics. Do you think it's possible to craft a rune and apply it to yourself to give yourself extra powers? And so let me just
super speed?
Yeah, let me just give inspiration to this. There's a TV show out there called The Magicians where there's tattoo magic, and you put a certain tattoo shape on your arm or on your body, and you can give yourself 20/20 vision in the dark, or all of these other powers.
Thing, there's another book series by Kevin Hearn, the Ink and Sigil Iron Druid stuff, that also involves using...
The book I'm actually reading right now, Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicciarelli, I believe is how you say it, also uses blood and tracing certain symbols on the skin to apply magic to yourself.
Yeah, I think people really like this idea.
We're going to find out that Imogen has a tattoo somewhere, or a relic somewhere on her body that she burned onto herself, and that gives her super speed, and that's why she's so fast.
We know Brennan's got a weird rune on his arm or
I
whatever.
know, and now I'm starting to wonder who gifted it to him. The palm of his hand. Because now I'm wondering, is it even Nolan? Is it? Or not Nolan,
Nowlin.
Nowlin.
Nailin. Nailin.
However.
Naolin.
Nowlin.
They're too similar to me. It frustrates me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand in real life, people have literally the same names all the time, and it is not out of the realm of possibility for those two people to, like, be in the same friend group or at the same school or whatever, but in a book, you can't. You can't. I
How
don't
does the
like that.
audiobook pronounce it?
How does the audiobook say it? They say Nailin. Nailin and
Mm.
Nolan. To separate them. I was gonna say, in my department at my school, we have 3 guys named David.
Hmm.
My neighborhood group has like 3 different Jennies.
Yeah, so it's obviously it happens, but it shouldn't happen in a book. Unless it's, like,
Now,
extremely somehow relevant to the plot.
I hope you understand. Now, there's gonna if an author ever listens to this, any generic author, they're gonna purposefully write a book that has like 3 Davids and 3 Jennies in the same group the entire time.
And I will not read it.
I don't know, you underestimate the power of editors.
It's been done before. West Wing.
I haven't seen it.
Me neither, sorry.
There's at one point there's a group of interns and 4 of them, or of the 4 of them, 3 of them share the same name.
Well, if it's played as a
Okay,
joke, and I can see that.
Is it for comedic effect and also in a visual medium you can, if you're not face blind like me, see the differences between the different actors' faces. On
Right.
page in a book, all you have is their name.
And they were definitely all just named Lauren. So it was definitely done for comedic effect, but it persisted, yo.
What were we talking about before that? Oh, whether or not she's using her powers and whether or not there's a rune.
Yeah.
I would be inclined to say that she doesn't have a rune because Navarians don't use them. And if she were to have a power other than what other people have that is not her signet, that would stand out.
This is true.
Do we think she's just fast because she's going on runs all the time and no one else is bothering?
I don't think she started running
Well,
until Violet did.
She ran with Violet, yeah.
Until she had to make Violet do it.
Not make until she joined Violet on them.
Well,
We know that she used her power, though, because it was called out while they were on the mat, and it's being called out now. And the only instance that we see textually of something not normal is how fast she is. But again, there's the question of, can they just use magic to make themselves a little faster, or is she using her signet?
mm-hmm.
And I just feel like with how things are worded, and because I don't feel like we see anybody else being able to use lesser magics to move faster,
Mm-hmm.
I think that she is using her signet to get an upper hand in the fight.
I think that's probably most likely.
I agree. I've been on the she's mind wiping them bandwagon all the time, so.
I know.
That's another thing to keep an eye on. I'm so hyper vigilant about so many characters to be like, I'm going to catch you. I'm going to catch you doing it. Like, one of these days I'll be right. So, Imogen thinks that Violet deserves even worse than what she got on the mat because Mama Sorrengail is responsible for the execution of her mom and sister. So, we also know that Imogen has an older sister.
Who was a previous writer as well.
When do we learn that?
I guess that's my maybe I projected
Well,
that.
somebody had to be because she has 2 signets.
It has to be a direct person.
Like,
So
and so
her
that's
mom.
her mother
Or
a prior ancestor.
Or mystery
And
father.
I don't think it would be parents
Probably not.
because they keep records. And so there has to be enough of a separation for them to, like, pass it off as some sort of family member that is not your direct ancestor. Am I making sense?
Yeah, someone far enough back that you could pretend that they're like an uncle or something instead of your direct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
remember, the dragons were largely responsible for this pairing process. The dragons
Yes.
sought out the ancestors of previous writers, knowing they needed to.
Garrick then shows that he is a good guy. Like, and not in, like, the gross way, but, like, a truly good guy.
Yeah, not a nice guy TM, but like actually
But,
an
like,
actual
a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he reminds Imogen that Mama Sorrengail is responsible for the execution of almost all of their parents, and it was Violet's mom, not Violet. He says that punishing for the sins of their parents is the Navarian way, not the Tirish.
Love that Tierish people already distinguish as not Navarian.
Yep. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Imogen starts raging that they got conscripted into this death sentence of a college, but Garrick interrupts her, saying that Violet is in the same situation and is suffering the same fate. Xaden jumps in and says, don't forget her brother was Brennan Sorengale. And I highlight the was, because Xaden obviously knows that Brennan is alive and is using the alias Azare, but still uses was. So I am assuming that most people don't know that Azare is Brennan.
Aeserai?
Is that not okay? Am I saying it completely wrong?
The audiobook is very dedicated that is Aeserai. He's Lieutenant Colonel Aeserai.
My Scottish Gaelic reading would be more along the lines of Aishere or Iseray. I'd have to look at the spelling again, but something like that.
I might have it pulled up still because I'm going to be honest, I could not remember what his name was. Okay, it is spelled Aisereigh.
Yeah, so Iseray, something like that.
And what did you say the audiobook say?
Aeserai. It's kind of the same as what Cassie just said, but the vowels are swapped. The vowel sounds.
Okay. And I've always said Azare.
I think in my head I've also said Azare.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The audiobooks be making choices.
They do be.
Whether they're good or bad.
Either way, his was could be construed as not a lie because technically Brennan is no longer going as Brennan. He is.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like by using was here, it stands to reason that no one or very few people know of the connection.
Probably.
Xaden also says that Violet has as much a reason to hate them as they do her. And again, she's mine to handle. No one continues arguing the point, so he sends them to bed in groups of 3, and Xaden is the last to leave. Violet cannot believe she just survived this, but is counting to 500 in an abundance of caution before climbing down. She is thinking that Zinal must have a soft spot for her because she's the luckiest woman in the continent when a shadow lunges, cuts off her air supply, and yanks her against a hard chest before she can scream.
Because, of course, non-consensual choking is acceptable when it's on paper.
When it's in the safe space of a fantasy, of a literary fantasy, where...
In this case, I would still think that it is not okay because they're not enjoying themselves. Well, maybe Xaden's enjoying himself a little bit.
Oh, he definitely
a
is.
Little.
But,
just a little.
In this case, I'm thinking of the reader as giving consent to mentally engage with the scenario rather than obviously Violet is not.
Yes.
She's being assaulted.
Yes. But also...
College of Assault.
She would assault him in a moment too, so...
I also want to just point out here that our girl Violet literally counted for over 8 minutes. Trying to be sure.
I would not have the patience for that.
I'm not that patient. I would be like, I'm going to count to 500, and I would get to like 50 and be like, close enough.
It's been less than a minute. That's the same.
Well, and obviously it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because he was still there, so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyways. Xaden whispers in her ear, scream and you die. And Violet's stomachs drop as a dagger touches her throat, replacing the arm. Even as a whisper, she recognizes Xaden's rough pitch, which I'm like, girl, how
did it take
much
this long?
have you been fantasizing?
But I also feel like
she has it so bad and she doesn't even know.
Well, yeah, earlier when he's talking about her being handled and she's like feeling the heat of indignation. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're feeling. Okay.
Yep. Not just a hot lust.
And this is less than a page after he has openly and publicly declared to a group of other people that he has a claim on her. Like, this is some signaling for a main character. Like, holy profile here.
Xaden then takes off her hood and says, "Fucking Sorengale." She indignantly asks how he knew, and she snarkily guesses it was her perfume. And I'm like, first of all,
Why are you wearing
you
perfume?
can't be actually wearing perfume, right? I don't
Right?
think that she is. I think that she's being snarky here, but again, you only have so much space and weight of things to carry with you. I don't think Mira would have let her bring perfume.
I
And
agree.
theoretically, she could have made some after the fact, but without like something to heat. Like she'd need some tools, which it doesn't sound like she's like sneaking into the kitchen to do this because I don't think
Yeah.
perfume is her hobby. I think poison's her hobby, and she's a little
No, I
focused
think
right
she's
now.
more I think she's more calling out like romance novel type things right now.
Yeah, because isn't that what always gives away the heroine in books? Is
Yep.
so
Her
clearly she's
Yep.
reading
perfumes.
them. She's reading said romance
Mhm.
books.
Of
Mhm.
course she was. She was a developing young teenager, thank
How
you.
many? How many of the books that Mira took back out of her pack do you think were said romance
Like
books?
dirty romances.
The one romance that she's in love with above all else. Yes, I could see her having a favorite
Oh,
romance.
oh my god. One of them is just a cover of a shirtless like buff man on a dragon. Okay. Anyways. He scoffs and says, "Sure, Violet, couldn't it be the fact that I literally command the shadows? It was your perfume, you're right." And this is when she actually learns that his signet is Shadow Wielder. She has a realization, no wonder he's risen in rank. This is incredibly rare and valuable. The power has the ability to disorient their enemies, if not take them down, depending on the strength. And as we learn very shortly, the strength is already quite high.
I wonder why.
Hmm. His rough and velvety voice asks if Ados hadn't already warned her about getting caught alone in the dark with him. She then draws her own dagger and does a little spin move like she did with motherfucking Jack Barlow, asking if this is how he's planning on handling her. He raises a brow and says how he might actually have to kill her if she was eavesdropping, and sheaths his blade, which pisses Violet off. So at this point, he is going to read her intentions regarding whether or not she is going to turn them in. So I think him saying, like, okay, yes, you were eavesdropping. I might have to turn you in. He's being completely truthful here. Because if she does intend to turn them in at this point, I do believe that he would go against his word to Mama Sorengale and kill her in order to protect the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that? I had this thought too, but wouldn't that also forfeit all of their lives?
I think if he managed it in a way that there's plausible deniability that it wasn't him who
Mm.
killed her,
Yeah.
because there's only so much that he can do to protect her anyways, and I think Mama Sorengale realizes that when she's talking later on about the deal. And of course, I don't have it in front of me right now, but
Her own stupidity is one of the terms that
Mm-hmm.
Violet could die by.
exactly, yeah.
I want to call out again here because he's like, eavesdropping, were we? He totally knew that she was listening in on the conversation. Again, he
Hmm.
was reading her long before she came out of that tree. I still think it was that intention to eavesdrop that really clued him in that there was someone there. There's no way he would let them all meet without trying to do something to protect them with his powers.
Yeah, but I also feel like,
They meet under that tree all the time. The grass is trampled.
yes, yes. Yeah, I still think it's more that she's in the shadows and he recognizes that it's her and he just knows that he's going to deal with it after they all leave, whether it is killing her or just making sure she's chill, because I believe we see him reading her intentions here pretty soon, and I do think that it is obvious that he's doing it now that we know, but we'll get there in a few sentences.
Even without reading her, like it's obvious she was eavesdropping.
Yeah.
Because
Yes, yeah,
Rebecca Yaros likes to hide these little sneaky things in here, and this is how it goes.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm combing through very, very carefully. Violet goads Xaden to get on with it. She pulls out another dagger and prepares to fight. He sighs and says if that's her best defensive stance, then it's no wonder that Imogen nearly ripped her arm off. Violet is indignant. Again, LOL, I wrote in my notes. That's like her main state of being.
Her MO.
And she says that she is more dangerous than he thinks. He mocks her, saying he's quaking in his boots, and she has decided she's had enough. Her temper gets the best of her. She flips the daggers, pinching the tips, and throws them towards his head. They sail past him and land in the tree behind him. We get the
See,
classic.
that's the kind of foreplay I'm in here for. That this is the kind of dirty romance and smut I need in my life. Harder, Daddy. Taunt me harder.
We get a classic "you missed, I wasn't aiming for you" scenario here. She tells him to back up and see for himself. He looks curious for a moment but manages to hide it, then backs up to the tree while making intense eye contact. And as his back hits the tree, the daggers brush either ear. She says, "Tell me again I missed," and takes out another dagger. And we get one of the most famous lines in this entire series. Fascinating. You look all frail and breakable, but you're really a violent little thing, aren't you?
A man with a really deep voice saying that in your ear, yeah, I'd go soft too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. An appreciative smile curves his perfect lips as shadows dance up the trunk of the oak, taking the form of fingers. They pluck the daggers from the tree and bring them to Xaden's waiting hands. Ha!
No, that's a power move.
Not me fanning myself off. Okay, okay, get it under control.
Here, let me retrieve your daggers without lifting a finger.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Violet's breath abandons her, and she thinks it's in fear because he could completely destroy her without lifting a single finger, but we all know that she is just, oh, she is having a good time deep down.
Yeah, because then she goes on to think about how much she hates how beautiful he is, how
Yes.
powerful he is, how he's like a poisonous
Mm-hmm.
flower.
Yes, yes, I have that next. So she is, despite the tense moment and the fact that she believes that he could kill her right this second, she is just, man, he's beautiful and I hate it. I hate it so much.
May we all be cursed with a Xaden in our lives. We could only be so lucky.
Cursed or blessed?
Take your pick. It's the same outcome either way.
Pick your poison, babe. I'm poison either way. That's a little Taylor Swift line there for any Swifties.
Speaking of Swifties, shout out to the playlist that Rebecca Yaros makes for each of the
Oh, I
books. If you
love
don't
that she's a
listen to them.
Swiftie.
She is.
We got to do
such a
bonus
Swiftie.
episodes on them.
I have to take the Taylor Swift songs out of the playlist because
John.
I can't.
John, I will convert you to being at least like a minor Swiftie eventually when I have more of a bandwidth.
Hey, Post Bronin, was that the name of the guy that fucked her over that made her release all the Taylor versions? Post him, her music actually got really good for a while there. Like
Scooter
Willow,
Braun.
Yeah, after the incident with him when she really started raging against him in her music, that's when I was like, okay, now you're saying something I can actually get behind, girl. There's some real fire.
She has some sneaky fire way back in her discography. She, in my opinion, is a poet, and I love her to pieces. But we don't need to get into it right now because I could wax poetic about Taylor Swift for a hot minute. Anyways, where was I? Oh yes, he's beautiful. She hates it.
And I'm all for it.
He's like a poisonous flower. His beauty is the warning against getting too close. She prepares for his attack, but he offers her daggers back instead. and says she should show that trick to motherfucking Jack Barlow, who he has learned wants to slaughter her. Which, yes, Jack
Not
Barlow
that it's
has
not common knowledge.
he's made it known, but this also shows me that Xaden is paying attention because I don't think that all the wing leaders know. You know what I'm saying? Like he's
Yeah.
absolutely keeping an eye on the situation.
This is fair.
Xaden continues to get closer until her blade is touching his cloak at his abdomen level. He reaches under her cloak to resheath her blades, and I'm like, why is this so hot?
Oh, it's so hot.
It's
Please put
so
my blades
hot.
back in the sheath.
Oh my god, it's so sexual. What else are you wanting to sheath there, Xaden?
For
Let
the
me just
listeners.
keep fanning myself. Let
Yeah,
me just
for the
keep fanning
listeners,
myself.
John's fanning himself. Abby's leaning off to the side with her
I'm
hand to her
giggling.
forehead.
We're
We're
affected.
swooning. We are so swooning.
Oh my god, okay. Xaden's gaze snags on her braid and he stops breathing very briefly. Obviously, he's very, very attracted to her and he is equally turned on. But is he actually looking at her braid here, do we think? Or
He says
is this
later.
a coincidence?
He says later that her hair is one of the things that gets him the most.
Oh, absolutely. You're
So
right.
I think
You're so
this
right.
is him,
Being like,
like,
oh, that hair, I would love to see it down.
maybe.
Acknowledging that for the first time.
Yeah, this
Okay,
might be one of the
okay,
first times where it's catching him.
okay. Yes, thank you,
Because he
Cassie.
also it's off guard because he's like he's sort of the one like in power of the situation right now, and so it's like derailing
And he
him.
loses it for a moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I am short of breath.
For the listeners again, John and Abby both have hands to their chests.
Okay. Yeah, there's going to be so much of that in the next however many chapters of these 3 books, plus the 2 to come.
It's not going to get any easier
It's
than
not.
this.
It's
Who
going to
gets
stay.
chapter 9?
It's just.
Oh, is that me?
I think
Oh,
so.
that's...
You're gonna have fun with
Oh,
that.
no. Oh, no.
All I know is I looked ahead and I do get the chapter with their first kiss.
Bitch.
Sorry. That's how it worked out, I promise. I did not rig the game.
I know.
Look, chapter 9 on the map.
Oh. I now have much joy.
Much to think about for this next.
You're like, when are we recording again?
Uh-huh.
Xaden says that motherfucking Jack Barlow might think twice about going after her if he shows him the dagger trick, which we know that she's going to quite soon. So, plants that little seed.
But would she have if he hadn't warned her, if he had given her that little hint? Like, this is the first time that Xaden actually proactively starts training her in a certain sense to be like, you can't let other people do this for you. You gotta scare this fucker off yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think that she might have eventually, but Jack does not make her nearly as angry and as indignant as Xaden does. And I think that she throws her daggers because she loses her temper. And as we know in the fight with Imogen, she talks about emotions being a negative thing in a fighting scenario. And I feel like she's usually very good at kind of keeping it tamped down enough. So he made her lose it and then says, you need to be using that more. I think that if he hadn't planted these seeds, she would probably still be more on the Dane mindset for a while of lay low, keep your head down, do not make anyone upset, do not make anyone angry, just do what you got to do and don't catch anyone's attention.
Yeah, it would take her longer because she is still suppressing these urges. I mean, she did draw the knife on Jack in the first place, so like clearly the impulses are there. But yeah, she's trying her hardest to do the lay low strategy, which is like clearly failing from the get go.
Violet feels like this has to be a trick or a mind game and pushes back by asking if the honor of her murder belongs to him. And then I'm going to read you guys a quote. but then I'm going to read the corrected version that I have made a correction. Page 86. This is Violet. I imagine you've all but buried me in your mind by now. Correction. I imagine you've all but buried in me in your mind by now.
I knew it! And yes, he has.
Oh, he has. You know he has. Oh, God. I love it when I'm making notes and I know that something is going to tickle you guys, and so I just start giggling.
I've been doing the same thing in mine.
Like, what can I say that's really going to make him laugh? Xaden asks if she plans on telling anyone about the meeting and looks at her with cold, calculating death stares. Death stares? A death stare. Listen, it's late. She truthfully answers no. He tilts his head and asks her why not. Bringing up the law, she says she's well aware of the law, cuts him off, finishes the addendums, whatever.
The citation.
I'm losing
yes.
it, guys. I'm fading. Okay, we're almost done. He says, "You're not going to run off to mommy or your precious Dane." And I'm like, ooh, he's jealous. Okay, he's jealous. She feels like her next action will be momentous and tells him that helping the rebellion kids shouldn't be punished because that wouldn't be fair or just, especially since the punishment would be execution. And at this point, he is staring at her, looking at her like he's trying to see through her. And ice prickles my scalp.
Yes.
And this is intention reading right here.
The prickling.
And so that's where I was like, okay, she is already capable of feeling him enter her mind, for lack of a better phrase. So, okay, I may be falling on your guys' side of this. Okay.
I make several notes of this in my chapter, and there was no prickling when she was in the tree earlier.
That's I was looking for it. I was looking it through the text when we were talking about it.
Yeah, and this harkens back to when they're in battle brief, and she says that she can feel like a tingling because she swears that Dane is staring at her, and I was like, no, that's your Xaden Spidey sense, and I'm like, okay, confirmed. Violet is nervous that Xaden is about to kill her, but she knows that she won't go down without a fight. She's still prepared and ready to go. He softly says, "Interesting," and tells her that he'll unfortunately owe her a favor if she keeps her word before heading back toward the Citadel. She's confused, asking if he's not going to handle her. She says not tonight because it wouldn't be fun if she's expecting it. And I wrote, he wants her to be afraid. Oh, he likes her a little off step, a little off kilter, a little afraid of him. Then
this is my favorite part.
He says, "You better get back before your wing leader realizes you're out past curfew." She yells after him that you are my wing leader, but he is like already
the best
gone.
thing ever.
This is the part that did it for me.
That is very silly.
It's yes. But also such perfect flirting. Knee going soft and able to stand.
At that point, she realizes that he didn't ask about what was in her satchel. She smiles, she sighs in relief, because at least she has got her poison. And that is the end of the chapter. It's such a good one. It's such a good one, you guys.
I love this one in particular, A Fool with Fonnelly Berries.
Yeah.
Yep.
If this was a traditional... If this book, like if the chapters were titled A Fool with Fonnelly Berries, would have been my chapter title vote.
Oh, that's a good one.
That would have been a fantastic title.
Maybe as a bonus episode in the future, we can title all the chapters.
It'll be like a bonus content for the end of the book. We'll just have to have a bunch of bonus content at the end of the book, and one of them's going to be all of us getting really drunk and titling every chapter. Yes!
One of them obviously has to be the playlist for each book, like at the end of each book.
Oh, yeah, we have to go through and, I have started realizing that not every song lines up with one chapter, but you can definitely... There are certain songs that I'm like, yeah, no... This is this chapter, this moment right
like
here.
Beat by beat.
One of them is, and like this is really kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but there's a moment in Onyx Storm when Violet kind of starts talking back to the leadership that be, and the song Circus from Britney Spears is in the playlist, and I'm like, oh, she is the ringleader, and you are just gonna watch and enjoy. And it's such a fitting playlist, or fitting song.
I'm so excited. We still have so far to go, but we're nearing the 100-page mark, so I mean, we're cruising.
Relatively speaking. It's
Relatively
also worth
speaking.
noting that these early chapters are much longer than the later chapters will be, even though the later chapters are going to take way longer to get through.
Oh, because there's so much information.
And so much to discuss, and so much to talk about, and fucking Liam.
Oh, no, let's not borrow tomorrow's grief. Let's enjoy. He's alive. We just met him. Let's
He's
enjoy
doing
it
just
while it
fine.
lasts.
Last thoughts as Cassie gives us a big cat yawn.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Rebecca really does not mince words. It really feels like most of what she writes has significant meaning, which is why even the shortest chapters take so long to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why each of us is sitting here going, wait, does this mean this?
And I'm sure we are doing like the classic AP English thing where we're reading way too far into a lot of things, but hey, once it's published, it belongs to the reader. And we are free to analyze, and as long as we can back things up with evidence, then who says it's not true?
I remember most of the chapter titles from How to Read Literature Like a Professor.
Oh gosh.
Is there any Christ-like figures in this? No.
A lot of things have meaning even if it's not like an explicit one that the author was thinking through as they did it. Like they still made the choice, and that means something on some level, even if it's not as deep as an AP English professor or teacher might want you to write a whole paragraph, like a whole essay about. But speaking of that,
Sometimes the curtains are just blue, but the author made them blue.
But they weren't red, so
they weren't red.
When she's thinking about how Xaden is just like a poisonous flower, she does specify like one of the ones that she's read about from the Cygnus forests in the east, and she has to tell us that detail as she's in the middle.
Well, because Signy is part of Krovla and the Paromish people. Signy is not part of Navarre. So she would never have had an opportunity to travel there.
Right, I'm not criticizing that she lacks firsthand knowledge. I'm just saying that she's like, oh, but I've read about this, and I need to know that this is the one that I'm talking about.
It's not just a poisonous flower, it's like this specific poisonous flower that is located in this region.
Yeah, and also this region is in the east.
And is probably somewhere into Karis's mansion, by the way. You guarantee there's probably a poison garden somewhere in that mansion. And it's filled with the most beautiful poisonous plants that you can find.
This does make me wonder if she ever brings back this, like, if this flower ever comes back, because it's
named.
Specified.
Well, it's not named, but it specified, you're right. I wonder if do we ever get any epigraphs from the Book of Poison? John, you would know.
The next chapter is
oh my god,
the Guide to Herbs and Their Uses.
I wrote notes
the
on
very
it
next
earlier
one
too. I knew that. I knew that because I
the
did
effective
notes on
uses
it.
of wild and cultivated herbs. Yep.
Okay, because my question was, I wonder who wrote this, but it's right here. It is Captain Lawrence Medina, and I don't think we know who that is.
Nope.
I was
They're
just
probably
wondering,
dead.
like, yeah, by poison. There's some dramatic irony for you. All right. Any final thoughts on the chapter?
Nope.
I think, I don't know about you, John, but I think Cassie and I are ready for bed.
I am so ready for bed. I also am so ready to go daydream about a Xaden in my bed. A 6'4", muscle-clad, not an ounce of body fat, ready to hold me down with his shadows and have his way with me.
Xaden.
And better yet still, capable of reading my intentions, so he knows what I want.
Oh, amen.
Well, he knows what you're gonna do, but
This is fair.
intentions are not the same as desires.
Hair
However,
splitting. You know,
he
let
does
us
seem
have
to-
this, Cassie. Let us have this fantasy. This is not based in the text.
So he seems to do fine without needing to read desires. So
This is also
Absolutely
true.
true.
Our man Xaden has game. He has game.
Oh, I'm thinking about that throne scene. I'm wondering who's gonna get it.
I mean, is it a sign?
Nope, we haven't gotten that far yet. I think we only assigned the first book.
Yeah, we've only assigned through the first book.
That's true.
Maybe I should do that so I can let you all know.
You mean so you can see if it's you and then switch it around so that it gets to be you?
I would never. The only time that chapters get switched is if Cassie happens to land on an explicit chapter. I hope it's
At
me.
which point, Abby and
really
I have
hope
to
it's
step up and let our inner horny child flourish.
I will tell you that the way I determined the switch for Fourth Wing, because only one explicit chapter landed on Cassie, is John, you had the last explicit chapter, so I gave it to myself. So I'm like, let's keep it fair. If it doesn't automatically land on us, I will keep it even with who has had more.
Keep it spicy.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Well.
Cassie just gave the super yawn. We gotta close her out.
All right. Until next chapter. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Wing Readers. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at The Wing Readers, or you can send us an email at thewingreaders@gmail.com. It would mean the world to us for you to subscribe and rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday. We'll see you in Chapter 8.